Let's be honest. When you think about whether your job is good or bad, whether you love it or you hate it, what do you think of first? It's probably the pay, maybe your boss, maybe the time you put in, the type of work that you do. But what if I told you there's actually something that, based on studies, is far more important, or at least is a bigger indicator of job satisfaction, both in terms of people leaving their jobs, but then also people choosing to stay. And what is that factor? That's what we're going to talk about today. The factor that seems to be the most important when you look at studies, or at least one of the top factors fairly consistently, is in fact your coworkers. That's right. The people that you work with tend to be, which makes sense when you think about it, one of the highest indicators of job satisfaction. I have experienced this myself, both with good work coworkers and bad coworkers. I have had jobs before where I loved the work that I did. I enjoyed what I did every day, and yet I found the job to be very frustrating and stressful because I had coworkers that were not that great. And that's coworkers that weren't that great for a number of reasons. I've had coworkers before who weren't good at the jobs that they were doing, and so I had to carry extra weight. But I've also had coworkers, and this, in my opinion, is even worse, are those coworkers that are just toxic. They just complain all the time. They create hostility and anxiety in the workforce where it doesn't need to be. Everything is a major problem, and they impact the whole office. And at the same time, I've had other jobs where I hated the work. It was very frustrating, and yet I found it to be somewhat bearable because I had coworkers who were either incredible at their jobs, and so they helped carry their weight, or they're just genuinely happy people who seemed to uplift the office so that even in frustrating times, it didn't feel as stressful because you were having a good time. The unfortunate reality for most people is that we often underrate coworkers. We don't always think of them as high up on the list as we should. We're often looking at pay and titles and opportunities, and while all those things are important, money is not going to make you happy. Money is not going to make a job easier. Opportunities are often just an illusion. Sometimes you work in a job where you feel like there are a lot of opportunities, and yet you may or may not ever realize those opportunities. And then a lot of times it's the same thing with the title. Are you chasing titles? Is there any guarantee you're going to actually get that title? And then a lot of times, does that title even mean anything? Sometimes you get a new title with no new pay, no new responsibilities. They're just trying to appease you. But the truth is that working relationships are one of the highest indicators in job satisfaction. And you can look up countless studies. I think Gallup has some good ones where you can see a lot of the reasons why people leave their jobs are the people they work with. And a lot of the reasons why people stay at their jobs, also the people they work with. And why that is makes a lot of sense. It's much like your family. Your home life is heavily shaped by the people that you live with, right? Whether you're married, whether it's a roommate, siblings, whatever the case is, the people you're around most are the ones that have the biggest impact on your day-to-day life. And at work, where you spend a lot of time, it's obviously those people that you work closely with that are going to shape your experience. And I would say this even down to a mental and emotional level. If you work with people who suck the joy out of life, you will lose joy in your life. If, on the other hand, you work with people who bring joy to your life, then you will have a life with more joy in it. A lot of times our coworkers act as an emotional contagion for the office. So if you have a hyper-vocal employee, coworker, who's always complaining and frustrated, nothing's ever good enough, they will start to impact the other people in the office. Same thing, if you're that person, you're impacting other people in the office. On the opposite end of the spectrum, those highly positive, hyperactive people, will have the same kind of impact in the opposite direction. And then, of course, sometimes they rub you the wrong way. If they're too nice, you think they're fake. Or if they're too negative, you also think they're fake. So there's some nuance there. But by and large, it's a reality. So while a lot of blame can be put on your managers, your leaders, they certainly have a huge impact. Don't underestimate the impact that your coworkers are having and the impact that you can have on your coworkers. So what can we do about it? There's a number of things. First, when you're taking a job, ask about the team dynamics. And in fact, certainly when you're applying for higher level jobs, but even any job, ask to speak with somebody who works there already. It's not uncommon to ask to speak to somebody in the job you're applying to. And really, companies should be good with that. In fact, if they don't want you to do that, it might be a red flag. What's going on that they wouldn't want you to talk to somebody who's going to be your coworker? But get a sense of how those people are. If you get into that call and it's immediate complaining right off the bat, one, might be the sign that the job's bad, but two, that might not be somebody that you want to spend every day around. Whereas if they're super positive and excited about work, maybe it is a good situation. Maybe that is someone you could build a relationship with. Or, how's the personalities match up? Do they sound like somebody that you would have fun with? Someone that can carry their weight? Or do they just sound like a baloney artist who's just making up stuff? For those of us not applying to a job, what can we do? Well, first off, you can be the person you want your coworkers to be. And I know that sounds like something that you might write on a poster and put it on an elementary school wall, but I think it's true. You have the same kind of influence on your coworkers that they have on you. So if you want the office to be more positive, act in accordance. Be more positive. If the office is too full of positivity and no one's real about the problems, start speaking up about the problems. And you'll be surprised how many people get on board with either way that you go. Just be honest about it. Don't make things up. Don't exaggerate. But people will start to follow. People will start to get on board. Or you'll at least see people break out of fake cycles if you're real in the way you handle yourself. The second thing that we can do in our current jobs is to set boundaries. If you know someone's super negative, avoid those people, or at least put a stop to it. I've had people in the past who were complaining too much, and I've had to tell them, like, look, I think you're overreacting here. I understand what you're saying, but I think you're misreading that situation, or I think you're letting it get to you. You're going too far. And good people will understand that and appreciate you checking them. At the end of the day, you can't let people ruin your day. So set boundaries. The third thing is to look for allies. If you feel like you're the outsider in the office, find the one person that you do agree with, whether that's in the quality of work that they do, the attitude that they have. Are they the one who's got some kind of positive slant in an office of negativity? Are they the one person who's real in an office of fake positivity? Get closer with them, because then you become an ally. And even one good coworker can do wonders for your career. And then the last thing is that you may just want to get out. At the end of the day, you can't make people change. If you're in one of these office situations where everything's constantly negative and it's just dragging you down, you may have to get out and find another job. And I wouldn't sleep on the other side either. I've had situations where I've had a boss who is horrible, and yet I've been in an office where it's full of people who just want to suck up, and all they do is sing the boss's praises, so nothing ever gets fixed. Either way, either extreme, if there's no solution, if you can't find good coworkers and you feel like it's just going to continue down the wrong path, then don't be afraid to just get out. The reality is that community is important, even for my fellow introverts out there who are probably thinking the best coworkers are the ones we don't get to talk to. Even to us, they do matter quite a bit. The people around us have a major impact on us, and we spend far too much time at work to ignore the impact that our coworkers have on us. So I hope that you give your coworkers a little bit more insight. Look into them. Check who's the problems, who's not a problem. Are you a problem? What can you do to change it if you are the problem? I hope that you're able to assess your situation and maybe find an ally at work that will make your frustrating job a little better. Or maybe you can find a place where you can go to work and have better coworkers than you have right now. So if you enjoyed this video and you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.